Hi guys, Happy New Year. Welcome to the GradedGem update video that I promised on the Facebook. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go through expectations. I've obviously watched the last video I did, so I'm going to try and compare those two up, and just kind of give you an update on where GradedGem is, where your cards are, what's going on with PSA, etc, etc, etc. So, start with the good news. US GradedGem is now completed. So, I mean, they've had every order back, and James, Z&G Emporium, has processed every order. So, if you are part of US GradedGem, you should have an email in your inbox. If you don't, then please reach out to james@gradedgem.com, as he's literally just got a handful of orders back now to return to you. So, yeah, please reach out and we'll get that sorted. Right, so now I want to respond to PSA stated the backlog has been completed. Yeah, they're not lying. The backlog has been completed at PSA. So they've completed all the grading. The cards are all done. I know it's got loads of questions. Please watch the 2 minutes so that you can get all of your answers. And effectively, we need payments to pay PSA. So as a generalization, submitters, people are paying when their orders are back. So that means we have to do it in batches. So we pay for a batch comes back, we send those out, payments are received, next batch is paid for. And obviously that is one of the reasons for the delay. So as long as our overall numbers still balance out, so we are owed, we have this much, against we owe PSA this much, then, you know, we're still effectively in the black. So that is where we're at, you know. There was always going to be a delay from PSA finalising the job and GradedGem finalising the job. Obviously, there's no way that I can dispatch or do as many cards as PSA can get graded in a day. Like, it's just not a realistic plausibility. So at the moment, yes, in theory, if every single one of you who owed payments or payment plans paid tomorrow, we could release all the orders at PSA. So we could send all of the money that we have and all the money that we're owed straight to PSA. Those orders are released. But realistically, that's not going to happen. One, it's not going to happen because of the cost of living crisis. And two, it's not going to happen because people want their cards to be here, unfortunately, before they're paying. Second, we just don't have the operational capacity to do that. Like, we don't have the ability to process 250 orders in a month between what we got here. So that is the current lay of the land. I know this might be a shock to some people, but it was always going to be a case. It was just going to be a case of how large that deficit was going to be. We've got no business. We've got no business with PSA, so therefore it was always going to be that. It was just going to be how big was that gap going to be in time and in finance. So yeah, we are effectively managing the return of the orders coming back from PSA. You know, we get those payments, we send them off to PSA. That is how that is working right now. And I just want to speak about the update system. So if we do speak about the update system is being retired from this week. There is no need for it. The orders are done. They're just awaiting payments. From October this year, we have not been updating the update system. And why is that? Well, effectively, we've put all our resources into getting as many orders out as possible. So the only thing we have updated is when it's gone to return shipping or when it's been completed. There's been no need to update any of the other stuff at all. So that is kind of where we're at. So we're going to retire that update system. I think also that will mean people are less pissed off with the general getting an order saying grading every single week. And people who have already paid, firstly, thank you. But the orders are coming in on first in, first out basis on PSA's determination. So when they receive the cards, they're coming back first before they receive the other cards. That is just how it's going to work, how it is working. That is currently the case. I know that there's going to be a lot of backlash against that, but also it's not unexpected. Like, it was always going to be the case. There was always going to be a gap between PSA finishing and us being able to do the work and pay them. As long as the numbers stack up and they're in the black, then that's fine, right? So as long as we get the payments and we're making the payments, then realistically the card should all be paid for. I think this also should be considered against what's happened with the other middleman. The other middleman's gone completely bankrupt and they've left all the cards at PSA. So although you might disagree with this way of going, and you might disagree with, you know, how it's been operated, I'm still totally committed to getting all these cards back one way or the other. So you could be angry about it, but at the same time, we've still managed this in a way where it's not meant bankruptcy. So we'll continue on that path. Right, the big bit is basically, last video I claimed that every single order would be back in this office from GradedGem UK. That obviously has not happened. I don't need to tell you that. I didn't want to just do an update video which just had that as the headline, and then every single comment and every single message and every single email is just hate, 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 hate. So, one, why is that not the case? Let's put it very frankly. October and November were massive months, just like January and February. We had never processed that many orders in that amount of time. So there was the part of the optimist in me that was like, yeah, we can hit these numbers every single day. And if we hit those numbers every single day in terms of processing, then we should be able to get them all back by Christmas, and we should be able to, you know, make everyone happy. Was it doable at that point? Was I honest in saying that I think it was doable? Yeah, I did think it was doable at that point, but reality hit us probably middle of November time with the amount of work we had, and it was just too much. It wasn't a plausible point then. And obviously there was the pressure from what was going on at the other big middleman in the UK, and ultimately the demise of that middleman. So you can imagine the pressure being from GG submitters, but then you've also got all of the unhappiness from that side, and then that's even pressuring further onto us. If we were in the same situation, if we were in the same boat, we're not, but we are definitely in a challenging boat. It's not a boat that is riding the sea comfortably, but all we're trying to do is make sure we have solutions to every single step, and just trying to, taking day by day really, getting the orders back, getting them out, and that's all we can do. So what led to us not hitting that? So the amount of work, explain that, amount of work, absolutely tons of orders. We had 8 people sending all the cards out in January and Feb. In those months, there's only 2 people here now getting them back. So just the amount of work is tremendous, and it's a massive challenge. The second bit is the payments not received. So I told you that we had payment plans and just payments outstanding from people who haven't paid. So what's actually happened is, although people have paid, there is a delay to that payment in many cases. So what will happen is we'll send an email out going, you need to pay for your order, and then we'll get an email back in a week later, or on payday week. Like on payday week, you'd obviously see lots of people coming back and going, right, now I've got the money to make those funds. But what that means is there's a delay. So instead of having all the orders back and being able to send them, we're getting them back in batches, because that's when we get our payments, and then we pay PSA, and then they would do those, and then we have to do our whole process, and then there's a small delay in between getting the next amount of orders. It's just the way it is at the moment. And that's how we are working. So we have got a solution in place to mean we get a large amount of orders back at the start of 2023, which is great, working with PSA. But it won't be the case that every order is going to come back, unfortunately. It's just, you know, it's financial, and it is just the reality. You know, if I could get every single payment from every single submitter immediately, then it would be less of an issue. But I also understand the position we're all in, cost of living crisis, and Pokemon cards are a luxury. However, if you aren't going to pay for your cards, or you have no intention, an email just saying that would be very helpful, because then we can plan it on auction, etc, etc, etc. I did also want to kind of go back to what we have done in this time. So back in the middle of September, June to July, August and September were not 100%. Those are now 100%. October's up 30%. November's up 40%. And if you consider how big those batches of orders are, it's massive. And then there's been small gains in Jan and Feb. So we've now worked with PSA to the point where October's going to come back, then November's going to come back, Jan and Feb might come back a bit more mixed, but you know, that's kind of the timelines we're looking at. I did also want to just go through the number from the previous video. So what we said was there was 100 to 150k cards. I've got this all down here, sorry about that. Number of orders just below 400. Total value was 1.1 million. And the payments and plans outstanding was 850, and non-payment of orders was around 40,000. So numbers for now, number of cards is under 80,000. Number of orders just under 250. Total value about $575,000. Unpaid orders is below 30k, so we have worked hard to get that down. And owed in the UK, EU payment plans is around about $500,000. So we're still on track from a financial point of view of being able to pay for these orders and get them back out. So that's not a concern. What is more of a concern is that operational delay for the payments, but also for the amount of work we can do here. That is definitely the way it is, and that's what's happened the last 3-4 months, and that's what's ultimately what this video is about. So what's the solution? The solution is not doing these orders in batches. So like I said, we've got a large amount of orders coming back at the start of this 2023. It represents about a third of the total orders we have outstanding with PSA. We need to work more efficiently here. Sure, absolutely we do. And then the other thing is we do need people to just make their payments as soon as they, get those emails. The quicker the better. That would be amazing. So what are my new timeline expectations? October and November submissions, I am expecting to be done this month. We're expecting, I think October is basically here, maybe 1 or 2, but then November should also be coming back very, very shortly. January submissions by the end of March, and then February submissions by the end of May. So that's currently what I'm kind of expecting. I do understand that currently if you send a card to PSA, you're getting it back in 3 months. It's the same that if we sent 100 cards off to PSA now, you would be getting it back in 3 months. It's just not the same in terms of the volume, the pure volume of cards. Our organisation doesn't match what we were sending to what we're getting back, as that's just simply the case. If we were only getting 500 cards in, then we'd be able to process them. But it's the amount of cards, hundreds of thousands of cards. That is it for this bit. I've asked on the Facebook if you have any queries. I know that many of you won't be too happy with this. I'm not happy with it either. It's not like I'm sitting here expecting you all to be happy with me and happy with GradedGem. Not saying that, but maybe if we take a look at the other large submitter and see what's happened there, we can kind of have some context, and maybe just also look at COVID boom and bust businesses anyway. I mean, look at everything which exploded in this time and everything that has come back down, and in most cases it has ended in bankruptcy. We're not at that point. We're still getting the cards back, and we're still working here. So that's part 1. Part 2 will be any queries I get on the Facebook. I'll try and put those together. Hope you're all well, and hopefully I'll be sending you an email from returns@gradedgem.com soon. Cheers. Right, grab some Q&As off the Facebook, so I just want to kind of go over those now. I hope a lot of the questions that you did ask have already been answered, but let's go over some simple ones. How do I know I'm not going to lose all my money and my cards? So, 1, I and GradedGem are fully committed to finalising the job. Like, that is what we're going to do. But even in the worst case scenario, PSA has all the information to process your orders and cards. So they know who's paid, they know who hasn't, they know who has these cards and who doesn't. In very worst case scenario, it would just be going through PSA, collecting your money, and then sending your cards back to you. That is how that would work. Or if you paid, obviously, just sending it back. I have no ill will to submitters, and in a scenario everyone decides to not pay GradedGem for whatever reason, any information will be released to PSA without an issue. Can I have my cards back ungraded and refunded? Simply no. Your 10 cards are a part of an order of 350, 400 cards ish, and we can't release them without payment to PSA. If PSA had to go through different orders and pick out different cards, then that'd just be an impossibility from their point of view. We are contractually obliged to pay PSA for those orders. We can't just cancel orders. It's just not going to happen, unfortunately. Right. Big question was how to contact. If it's about our return or a return that we got here or process so that we've got here, then return to GradedGem. You should have already had an email from us. Please just reply to that. That's nice and easy. I'm also just now going to explain, we don't have a customer service rep. There's not an extra person. It's just myself and another person getting these cards out. So by that, every single email that is received that's like, where are my cards? You're just stopping cards going out, and therefore you're stopping your cards going out eventually. You're just delaying your own cards. It makes no sense. So every single email I receive that's just not really going to help push cards out is just stopping cards going out. I hope that's understandable. If you do have an exceptional query, so something to do with payments or maybe your email address has changed, then urgent, then the title, email address has changed, connor@gradedgem.com, and then I'll get back to it and I'll try and sort it. I know it's a pain, and you can be angry with me all you want, but just try and slow down on the email side, because it is just wasting hours and days even. If you think about it, in a month, if I'm spending 3 days responding to emails, which are just like, where are my cards? It's just 3 days of cards not going out. It makes little to no sense. Changing of postal address. Just no need to contact. Again, in your returns app, because of the time it's taken, we ask every single person to confirm their delivery address. Nice and simple. Don't worry about it. If your email address has changed, please then do get in contact. Thank you.